Hi guys, today we are watching Flying Kipper 88 years later. Credit to Thunderbolt Siren Productions.
Ice and snow is one of the biggest enemies to railways. Traction being
It's
reduced from the
James.
ice, bitter cold, it's no fun at all. This would especially
Ice
be the
and snow
case on
is
the
fun.
island of Sodor in 1935, where many changes governing operations in cold climates would be made. It was early in the morning at Tidmouth Harbor. All kinds of ships use this harbor by the sea. There are passenger ships, cargo ships, and some fishing boats also come here. They unload their fish on the quay. Some of it goes to shops in the town, and the rest onto a special train to other places far away. This is the train the railwaymen call the Flying Kipper. The power for this train was ready at 5 o'clock. The train was headed by Northwestern Railway number 3, named Henry, a 460 built by an unknown builder who built him using stolen blueprints of a rejected design from Sir Nigel Gresley, the man behind the famous A3 and A4 Pacifics, among other British steam. There was plenty of snow and frost. Men hustled and shouted, loading up the crates of fish. The last door banged, the guard showed his green lamp, and the Flying Kipper was ready to go. Clouds of smoke and steam poured from Henry's funnel into the cold air, and the fire's light shone brightly. They were going well. The light grew better. Signal lights shone green as they passed. But then, a yellow signal appeared ahead. His driver, complying with the signal, prepared to stop. But the home signal was down, showing clear. His driver remarked, saying, "All clear, Henry. Away we go." Little did they know that the switches from the main line to the siding were frozen, and the home signal should have been set at danger, but snow had forced
They're gonna
it down.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Showing clear. Up ahead, another freight train was waiting in the siding to let the Flying Kipper pass, and the driver and fireman were drinking cocoa in the brake van with the guard. This train was led by NWR number 5, named James. The crew had no idea the Flying Kipper was lying toward them. "Kippers do." "Pfft, who cares? This is good cocoa." "Come on, fireman, back to our engine." Little did they know they had got out just in time. The collision was devastating. Henry plowed into the rear of the train, tossing the brake van up in the air and crushing a few cars behind it. Henry slammed onto his side, suffering moderate damage, laying dazed and surprised in the snow. His crew jumped clear just before the collision and survived, but it is unknown if the guard of the waiting freight train survived or was killed in the wreckage. James was undamaged from the accident and even helped clear away some of the wreckage along with his crew. While it's not confirmed if anyone was killed, both of Henry's crew members did sustain minor injuries, while James's crew was uninjured. An investigation quickly found out that ice and snow had caused the accident, which had frozen the points into the siding. However, they should have had the home signal still set at danger, not clear, but thanks to the heavy snow, it had forced the signal down to show clear, which was a slight design flaw in semaphore signals. Back in those days, if nothing was in the block, the signal would just so clear, as indeed nothing was on the main line ahead. Now, had the signal's standard signal be at danger, indicating that no trains were lying through the area at the time, yeah, it would have been frozen, but it would have stopped the flying kipper just short of the switch, preventing disaster. Without track circuits as well that could detect occupying trains and switch conditions, this also aided in the false clear aspect of the signal. Also, under normal conditions, signalmen were able to see signal aspects, but thanks to the heavy snow, this quickly became impossible. The over-reliance of block signaling by having these trains run at track speed despite the heavy snow also contributed to the accident. These kind of events were also what caused accidents such as the Abbots Ripton incident on the Great Northern Railway in Huntingdonshire, England, when, on January 21, 1876, the Scotch Express ran into a coal train in a siding due to the same events playing out. This also caused the northbound express to Leeds to crash into the wreckage. That wreck killed 13 and injured 59 more. As a result of the accident, many changes came to the Northwestern Railway, including improving the signals so that they could work properly in the frost and snow, not to mention providing an indication to the signalmen if they are not operating properly, and keeping the signals normally at danger so that if they were to stick, there is unlikely to be a false clear aspect. This still applies today, even with cuddle light and position signals, where if no train's approaching, the home signals by the junction there stay at a stop aspect until a train clears the interlocking just before the one they're at. Then they'll display whatever aspect they need for that train. Nowadays, some signals even turn off when there's nothing in the block, only to turn back on again when a train enters the block, which helps improve the life of the signal bulbs, not to mention save on electricity and maintenance costs. There was also another bit of technology that could have helped in preventing the accident: AWS. AWS, or the Automatic Warning System, works by using a sensor to read a magnetic impulse by the signal. That sensor was wired to a display in the cab, called the sunflower dial. If the signal was clear, a chime is heard. Any other aspect would make a horn sound in the cab, and if the crew didn't acknowledge, the train would automatically go into an emergency stop. Further safety systems like the Train Protection and Warning System would also aid to prevent future accidents like the one that befell the Flying Kipper. However, it wouldn't be until the late 1950s and several more accidents until British Rail would make AWS standard on all main lines. Similar to AWS, there was a North American technology that also could have prevented the accident. They're called cab signals. Cab signals work similar to AWS, and even with the bad weather, as soon as the train passed the signal, the aspect would display in the cab, and whatever aspect it was, the crew could react accordingly. And, just like AWS, if the aspect was anything but clear, a warning is issued, and if it isn't acknowledged, the train would go into an emergency stop. This kind of technology was already in place in the United States on railroads such as the Pennsylvania Railroad, who helped pioneer it in the first place, as cab signals became standard as far back as 1922. In the end, a few of the freight cars on both trains and the brake van of the standing freight train were scrapped, but Henry, however, was sent away to Crewe Works in Cheshire, England, owned by the London, Midland and Scottish Railway, described by the Northwestern Railway's controller, Sir Topham Hatt, otherwise known as the Fat Controller, as
a fine place for sick engines.
Henry would eventually return after a full rebuild, no longer being a rejected Gresley design, but now as a Stanier-designed Black 5. While the details on how this took place are a bit hard to explain, especially with conspiracy theories that the original Henry was scrapped with a new Henry being built, but whatever the case may be, he returned with a new shape and a larger firebox. He's still with us on the Northwestern Railway. And 88 years later, you would have never known he was in such a terrible accident, nor that he was originally a rejected Gresley design. You can often find him on large goods trains, including the Flying Kipper, and you can even sometimes see him on the Express. He does it so well that Gordon in A1 Pacific is jealous. But that's another story. Well, that was an overly involved April Fool's joke that'll get demonetized and copyrighted by the tyrants at Mattel. Although, being a parody of the Flying Kipper episode, the events of the story are pretty close to what actually happened in the Abbott's Ripton incident, and I really admire how the creator of the Railway series, Reverend W. Awdry, worked in real-life events into his stories. This also continued for some time of the TV show when they started writing their own stories. Hope you enjoyed this little April Fool's video, and I'll see you next time.
Nice video. Like and subscribe, and I will see you later.